Anyway, we're here today. We've got a great topic to talk about, really driving traffic to your site. How do we entice the younger consumer to get there? And what are we doing online once they're there? And we've got the right panel to talk about it. And we're gonna jump in. Dave, why don't you take it? Tell us what's happening at ThirdLove. What strategies are you putting in place to drive traffic to your site?
Well, it's great to be here. My name's Dave, co-founder, chairman of ThirdLove. First question for the audience, because this is sort of customer acquisition here. How many of you have heard of ThirdLove? Yes. Every year it goes up that I come to this conference, so we're doing our job. ThirdLove's a direct-to-consumer intimate apparel brand, bras, underwear, activewear, loungewear. We're majority online, and we have a couple stores as well, and then a little bit of wholesale. For a direct-to-consumer business, it's the lifeblood. Creating great product is really important and significantly hard, especially with a complex product like we have at ThirdLove. But once you get through that, it's all about driving traffic and getting customers to the site. We all know plenty of stories of great businesses out there that had good product that never amounted to anything, because it's all about marketing. And so, like everybody else, our strategies shift year to year about how we're gonna drive traffic to the site as these algorithms change, as new platforms come online, as new technologies are developed. It's very, very hard, and it seems like every year it gets more difficult. So we can get into the weeds, but I'll just start by introducing myself.
Kevin, next, do you want to introduce yourself? I apologize for not giving you the appropriate time to do that.
Yeah, no problem. So Kevin Ertell, formerly with Nike, leading global retail operations. I also led global digital operations there and digital for the running category. And then I've been in digital and retail for my whole career, and started with digital really back in '98.
Neha?
Great. Hi everyone, my name is Neha Singh. I'm the founder and CEO of Obsess. We are an immersive shopping platform powered by AI. Essentially, we enable brands to create 3D virtual stores on their websites, which is really the interface for the next generation of consumers. Because if you look at today's Gen Z, 80% of them classify themselves as gamers, and essentially we are bringing the gaming interface into shopping. We work with global enterprise brands across a variety of different categories, and the purpose of our platform is really to engage and attract a younger audience.
I'm Ken. I host a podcast called The Retail Pilot, Leaders and Legends. Anyone having challenges sleeping tonight, I would say just fire up one of those episodes. I can take you out in about 15 minutes. I also invest in and advise a number of tech platforms that really help support brands and retailers scale their business. So excited to be here. Let's talk about driving traffic, Dave. So I'm gonna come back to you. I'm not letting you off the hook totally, but what tools are you using today, or what are you finding that's working, that's effective in driving traffic, really post the iOS 14 changes?
Well, it's funny that you brought up iOS 14. I mean, we've talked about that extensively inside the company, and there's been a lot of shifts that we've had to make. Everybody was flying blind for a year. I'm on the board of Interactive Advertising Bureau too, and that was a significant challenge for every organization, publisher or advertiser that went through that. And I think nobody really thought it was that big of a deal while you were in it, and then looking back, it was a problem. But today we really focus on kind of four main things: email, social, search, and affiliate at ThirdLove. There's a variety of other things that we do too, like CTV, which I think we're gonna talk about in a little bit, but those are really the four main things that we focus on at ThirdLove in terms of driving traffic. And obviously, the core way that we look at it is between new customers, people that haven't necessarily heard of us. They respond to an ad on Instagram or somewhere else, and for us, it's all about the thumb stop. That's how we really think about it. So when you're scrolling through, nobody wants to see ads, especially companies you've never heard of, and so how do you get somebody in that microsecond to stop scrolling and then look at the ad? Obviously, we've all been there, and then click on the ad, and then obviously once you get to the site, convert on the site, which is a whole separate challenge. And then existing customers, so retention. And we've got a myriad of strategies for all those things, but we really look at it in two buckets. ThirdLove today, I mean, we ship thousands of orders a day, we have millions of customers, so retention is a really important piece of what we do, and increasingly a more challenging part of what we do too, because there's more competition and there's more noise out there in the markets for people advertising other products, different products, or against us too.
I also noticed on your site that you offer student discount, so trying to reach out to even a younger customer to get them to be part of your community. How is that working?
Oh, that was actually something that I implemented a long time ago, and for first responders too, by the way. I don't actually know if it's used that often because we don't promote it that heavily for obvious reasons. It's pretty easy kind of to hack it, or you use an old alumni email address or something like that. Furthermore, we give enough of a discount for people on first purchase anyways that it sometimes is better to go with that discount anyways versus the student discount. But I mean, it's a good attraction. I think we're listed on some websites for like companies that give student discounts. So, yeah.
Kevin, with your experience, what are you seeing now that maybe excites you around tools or ways to bring customers, younger customers, to sites, increasing site traffic?
I think, when you try to draw traffic, there's two ways you could go. You can go kind of what I would call the bought traffic route, buy media, offer discounts and get people in, and that definitely works, and it definitely gives you a bump when you lever that up and push it. But that's getting increasingly harder to do. It's getting more expensive to do that, you run into a lot of challenges. It's hard to really make money long term doing that. The other way is what I call earned traffic or earned loyalty. And that's, having a point of view and having something that you stand for. And then going and finding communities who believe in that same thing and value that same thing. Brand building is something I've seen over years. It works. It works really, really well. It's slower though. It requires patience and it requires fortitude and discipline to stick to it and really do what you believe in and generate a crowd of followers that way. But it's way more sustainable, and it really builds the business over long term. So I think in the end, you probably need a little bit of a balance of both. But if there's not a huge focus on that idea of earning traffic and earning loyalty, it's really hard to have a sustainable business.
Neha, it's interesting, your platform is very interactive, but it's also video-esque, and we see a lot that's happening out there in video. I'm wondering how you view social media and how that's being leveraged to drive traffic to sites.
So I would say in the context of immersive experiences, like Dave said, I love the thumb stop concept, but we are looking for things to differentiated content to our audiences. And with immersive 3D experiences, what we see is when influencers post this type of content on social, it's so different from anything else that you have seen. It's more interactive, as you mentioned, and it gets much higher engagement than traditional kind of social content. For example, we have one of the largest kind of fashion brands in the world who created a virtual store for the holidays, and they had an influencer who essentially did like a TikTok green screen video inside of that, where she took you through the store and posted that on TikTok, and they got a tremendous amount of traffic from that. So for influencers, for brands, if you're looking for something that's differentiated from just typically posting an image or a video, this is really kind of the next frontier of content. And then ultimately, I agree with kind of what you said in terms of you can bring that traffic, but then you have to, sustain it and you have to manage it. And if you think about today's e-commerce interface, it's basically everything is a database. You're going and there's a grid of thumbnails, and that's very different from the content you're seeing on socials. So the next step is really how do you make that content as engaging?
You mentioned influencers. I'm wondering to what degree influencers are maybe as important as user-generated content, which feels a little bit more realistic. And back to Kevin, what you said before, creating an organic community instead of being a community that's being preached to. Any experience with UGC that you've had, Dave, or looking to use possibly to generate traffic?
Well, Ken, it's funny you said that, because how do you tell the difference between influencer content and UGC?
I would think, well, it depends on the level or the name. Maybe more celebrity/influencer, a something Navy, to throw out a name that you would recognize versus someone who has maybe only 50,000 followers.
Well, I think my point is that they're one and the same and pretty synonymous these days, that these two worlds have been combined together. And do you really know as a user whether something is paid influencer, free product giveaway versus sort of UGC? I don't really think so. And I think that those two worlds have really come together in sort of a negative way for consumers, because you should know. And UGC, when it comes to specifically YouTube, is an area that unboxing, product videos, things of that nature are really important to brands. I don't necessarily know if they're that important to consumers, though. I don't necessarily know if that's what's going to get people to buy. So I think it's an ongoing struggle, and I think that the blending of sort of what's paid and what's not, what's truly your friend who you follow on Instagram recommending a product because she actually loves it versus she got it for free or was paid, that's where I think consumers are being led astray.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw that yesterday when we had the panel on with Gen Z. I think a younger generation, the bullshit detector is high. It's a savvy group who knows how to really dig into things and determine if you're real or not. So it has to be real and it has to actually matter. And then I think to your point, it doesn't really matter what format it's in. It's got to be authentic.
Right.
What about some of the old-fashioned methods that are kind of coming back now? I'm seeing a lot more catalogs. I'm sure we're all receiving catalogs in the mail. Is that something that you're leaning into, shying away from? Is it driving people to your site?
I mean, all right, well, audience poll, how many people have seen an uptick in the amount of direct mail that they've received in the last 2 months? Okay, why? The election, right? And how often are you actually looking at any of those pieces of direct mail? 0. You toss it all in the garbage. So we have found, we spent years spending a lot of money on direct mail, everything from catalogs to small mailers to things that are inside of an envelope because people tend to open those more. We've tried it all, and we don't do direct mail anymore. And we would never do direct mail in an election year.
So that's a pretty definitive answer. You're not a
Or not much. It's not a good, I don't think it's a good use of capital when the majority of people don't even see it, because you just throw, especially in California, I think it's really bad in California, the amount of stuff that people are receiving just because of the laws here around campaigns. But you throw the majority of that stuff away.
Kevin, anything else that you've experienced? We talked a little bit about connected TV, and I'm open to hearing a point of view around this. Something that I'm seeing more of, and again, trying to reach that younger customer who's sitting in front of either their laptop or their iPhone and watching a stream show. Is that working? Are you seeing a lift in that space, or even looking at it going forward?
Repeat the question, looking at?
Connected TV being a driver of traffic.
Yeah, I mean, I think CTV is a really important part of anybody's marketing mix these days. It has to be. Costs have gotten pretty expensive, and it's something that we've talked about at IAB too. And just because there's more people in the auctions, and I don't think there's a lot of great inventory. So there's a lot of dynamics into it, but the inventory is part of it. So we certainly do CTV. It's great for brand marketing. It's great for getting your name out there. You generally have people that don't turn away because they can't on CTV. And there's new sort of types of inventory that are emerging that I personally like. I don't necessarily know if we're doing it at ThirdLove, but the stuff that Netflix is doing is really interesting to a certain that's a certain demographic that doesn't want to pay or wants to pay very little for a subscription. And so there's different ways to do insertions that I think are really good, but generally those are pretty expensive, and so you have to weigh that on a CPM basis versus other places you could spend your dollar.
One thing that I'm also seeing out there, just not that it's new, but it's how do you reach that customer that's not on your site, with SEO being very important. And you get down to the key area of how well your product is tagged and how many people will come to your site through a search. One company, Lily AI, they work with a number of companies. They automate the tagging process. So they help customers find product with customer speak. So even though I know a merchant would call what I'm wearing a woven shirt, my friends don't wear woven shirts. They wear button-downs or collared shirts. Or my daughter would be shopping for a Darty dress. Well, there's no merchant that's putting Darty in the attribute section of the product. But to have those additional attributes that can be found during the SEO process, that's also going to drive customers to a site. I think a really important way to use AI. Let's pivot over to talk about once you're at the site. I think, Neha, as you said before, not much has changed with online. I think it looks really similar to how it's looked over the past 25 years. I mean, it's basically pick a PDP, put it in the cart, and it comes home. Now, it all happens much faster, much more readily than ever before, but the actual experience is almost without soul. There's no person there, there's no energy. So seeing the importance of what Obsess is doing, why don't you share a little bit more on how you're energizing the shopping experience for the customer who's on the site, who, by the way, frickin' loves video. The younger customers consuming video today, like at a rate that is really fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe we can cue up the video so you can all see like a visual of what we mean, because our tech is
show us
super
what you
visual.
Do. Exactly.
Yes, and
wrong video. Thank you.
yes.
Next one.
Yeah, not this one.
All right.
But yeah, while that's happening,
Here we go.
essentially, so essentially, online experience, the way it was designed and the way it still is super transactional, right? When you go to a retail store of a brand, you're getting this entire brand experience. For example, the Nike flagship stores, like they're amazing experiences and people line up outside to visit them. Typically, e-commerce sites, not the same thing. You're not really getting the brand story. You're not being immersed in it. And so that's a huge opportunity for brands to bring that into digital, as we know that e-commerce is at the highest level that it's ever been. And it's no longer sufficient to just kind of have your website be transactional and database oriented. So experiences like this will essentially let you tell stories, let you create unique environments for your customers. Maybe it's across different collections. Maybe it's across different product launches. And as the user comes into these experiences, it's a very active, self-driven versus a very passive, infinite scrolling type of an experience, because it's, again, bringing the gaming interface into shopping. And you are kind of going around, you're tapping on products, you're discovering products in a natural way, just like you do in a retail store. And then ultimately, what we really look at is like brand memorability, right? Because today's e-commerce websites are so undifferentiated. The only difference is font and color. Whereas when you come into an experience like this, it's totally unique. It's something that you will remember. It's something that you will share. And that's hugely different. And then last point I'll make is the reason this is relevant now is that our mobile phones have only in the last few years become powerful enough in terms of GPUs, and network speeds have become high enough that these types of experiences have become possible. So while this always has been a dream, it's not actually been technically possible until very recently, but now it's super smooth, it's super fast.
How easy is the implementation here, the integration? Because everybody has a tech team of one person. They're all really busy. They're all holding on to their day job. What do we have to do to make that a reality?
Yeah, the integration is super easy, and I would say like with AI over the last year, our production process has just sped up so much, because as you saw, it's a very visual experience, and now we can generate those visuals much faster. So if you are thinking about what do I want my virtual experience to look like, before we had to kind of model each item in 3D, the environment in 3D, the brand would see it, they would be like change things. But now we can generate a lot of options very quickly with Midjourney, DALL-E, et cetera. And then you can pick pieces of what you like, and then we can kind of create that experience. So that has had a tremendous impact on the go-to-market time for these types of experiences. And then in terms of the integration, we are connected with all the major e-commerce platforms. So it's just a plugin that you add to the site.
And how are you looking to measure success? What is the key metric for success when a retailer implements Obsess?
Yeah, so in terms of our platform, and the experiences can really be designed to whatever KPI you want. So for example, if brand awareness is your key KPI, so for example, we worked with one of the Johnson & Johnson skincare brands, and their goal was brand awareness. In that case, the experience is designed, as soon as you enter, it's about education about the brand, the science behind their products. if your key goal is brand engagement, then we're going to add a lot of gamification to this experience to really get people to drive, discover, learn about the brand, but also like learn about products. And then if your key goal is immediate conversion, then we're going to put your best-selling products right in front. So typically, that's how the first step is really figuring out like what your goal is. But I would say primarily our key metric is engagement in terms of session time, interactions per user, and then add to cart.
Got it. Kevin, you and I were talking a little bit about what we'll show next. If you could roll the next clip, which I think this is kind of fascinating. This is what's going to be happening, I think, next online. It's an AI-generated sales associate. I mean, imagine putting her, Ava, on your PDP or on your landing page and actually asking her about the product. She will know the entire product catalog. She can answer any question. And it's a way to add some of that personalization and human interaction. And Ava can look like anything, anyone, any person. I think Firework is working on this now. It's early stages, but I see this is where commerce is going, e-commerce is going, personalizing and actually interacting with somebody. So Kevin, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think there's a big opportunity to change the way we've been doing it for a long time, and some technologies give us a better way to do it like this. But people have gone into stores for a long time because they want to interact with somebody. That's the reason that it's not to be necessarily self-serve all the time. So, and e-commerce for so long has been about a search or just filtering and clicking through options. And it's a lot of work, honestly, when you start to look at it. So if there's a way to sort of humanize a little bit, get a little bit easier and quicker to the information that you're looking for, personalized to you, it's I think, powerful. And I think that's a good way to do it, one interesting way. I think the other one I saw is a company called Humankind that's doing a kind of interesting thing through SMS, but it's a clienteling sort of approach. But the reason I like that it's through SMS, you're working with a real person in this case, but we're all used to texting with people. The nice thing about text versus an online chat is it can start and end kind of on your time frame versus have to sit around and wait on a screen, and you can build on it. So it's not a one and done thing. You can just keep building on it. So I really like what I've been seeing under that scenario as a way to connect with brands and people in a really good way. So what Humankind's doing.
I think just how people interact with a site is more of an experience just like you interact in a store. And I think that's what's missing from online. Dave, anything that's working for ThirdLove that creates some type of interaction between the customer and the site aside from just product selection?
I don't have anything specific, but on the AI front, I think what's been very interesting, hopefully everybody in the room has seen the Sora, OpenAI Sora demo. It blows you away. Yeah. I mean, it looks like it was filmed on a Red camera and like the highest quality imagery you can ever get for a very expensive commercial. I think in the next two years, we'll have a Super Bowl commercial, the most expensive 30-second piece of media in the world. I think we'll have a Super Bowl commercial filmed and created, I shouldn't say filmed, entirely with Sora or a solution like that. I think that in many ways, that's the future for creating a lot of this, which means there's gonna be a lot more content out there, which means that you can actually try lots and lots of different content for your ads, right? Most companies have to look at what it costs to actually make a television commercial, which is a lot, the filming of it, and they can only make one or two and then cut it up in a couple different iterations. But imagine if you could do that many, many times over with entirely different content and throw it all at a wall. It's sort of like you do with a digital ad to see what sticks. So in many ways, on the AI front, I think that is really gonna be the future, especially when you talk about social, because the majority of social ads are all video. At least those are the ones that really work. And so what we do today is we try a lot of different things, throw it at a wall, see what sticks, and then keep spending behind the ones that actually do work. And imagine if we could do that even faster, iterate quicker, and edit really in real time based upon data that's being fed in real time from Facebook or wherever into Sora or whatever system you're using. It's a fascinating thing to consider for online advertising.
Yep. We also talked a little bit about retail marketing networks, RMN, and just seeing brands put their product on other sites, how to reach customers that may not be looking necessarily. Like, for example, if Dick's Sporting Goods was to show its landing page, would they have a Nike ad or an Adidas ad or a Puma ad right on the landing page? Just a way to create brand awareness, drive traffic, potentially to an Adidas, Nike, or Puma site, but it's also a way to connect with a customer through video. I don't think we've figured out video yet in this country like it's been figured out in Asia. It's such a big live stream, shoppable video. It's just not quite working here yet, but you know something is going to click because that younger consumer is so consumed with video. They're so influenced by video. There's so many video opportunities. How do you integrate it on your site? Get that first-party data. Because it's one thing when it's in TikTok and Reels, you don't get that data. We all want that data. So I think as we're looking forward, how do we use video to keep traffic on the site, increase the interactivity of the customer, and get that data? That's just, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Companies are trying it.
It's coming, though. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to talk about live selling because I think it is so interesting that it hasn't caught on in this country, but it's so popular in Asia.
$1 trillion industry in Asia.
Huge. Yeah. And you've seen people play with it, like Amazon during holidays, you'll see them doing some live selling stuff, but nobody really pays attention to it. ThirdLove recently did QVC, the OG live selling.
Right.
And we did really good revenue in 7 minutes of being online for the week, twice over a weekend. So like, we haven't evolved in this country. We're so advanced over other countries in so many other ways. We set the standards, we make all the chips, we do all of that here, but yet live selling hasn't evolved, which I think is so interesting.
Yeah.
Part of the challenge with video is you have every company has the brand police. If they're marketing people, just send the hate mail right to me. But it's like when you who picked that spokesperson? They're not on brand. Because the technology for shoppable video, shoppable live stream isn't hard. The strategy is hard. The content creation gets hard. Yeah. And that's really the challenge because it works, but who's doing it?
So that makes me think, my daughter, who's 21, so she's a Gen Z crowd, she told me about this site, Hearts, which is a pet food or pet supply company, and they have these video customer reviews they're pretty interesting. They got them all over the place, so I kind of dug into it, and there's a company called StoryTap, I think. I found it's doing it, and what they're doing is they're helping customers do video customer reviews with this little platform they have that kind of allows the brand to put together a little bit of the types of sort of essentially storylines they're looking for in customer reviews, and then people are creating their own customer reviews, which is UGC really, but kind of within essentially the brand guidelines. I thought that was an interesting one. It just made me think of that. But
yeah, I think there's lots of opportunity to engage the customer. I think sites in general have to be really good problem solvers as well, and provide a certain degree of entertainment or shoppertainment, just like when you go into a store. Who's helping me complete the look? And there are companies that do that online, whether it's a Find Mine or a Stylytics, that can actually, once I've picked out a top, what's the jacket that I wear with it? What's the pant? What are the shoes? So those are all problem-solving platforms that are important, I think, to the customer today who has limited time, wants problem solved, wants to be entertained, and most importantly, wants to be connected to a brand and a community. So anyway, just want to thank all of you for your time today. It's been a fun panel. Hopefully you guys found it interesting as well, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.